good to go.
Yay!
All right, we are a little late to our own live stream. Welcome everybody to our fermenting Q&A live stream.
Yay!
I think both really excited about this evening.
Yes.
And we just want to welcome everyone as they're coming in the door.
Welcome.
Welcome, Fancy Farmer. I think you're the first one to comment. We're going to focus this evening primarily on answering fermenting questions. We can't promise we'll have every answer to every question, but we're going to do our best to answer as many as possible. We are also going to tell you some about our Fermenting Foundations course, which the enrollment for that beta course ends tonight at midnight. We have some questions from email. We also have some of our own questions, and then we're going to answer your questions from the live chat as much as we can.
Yes.
If you guys want to ask a fermenting question in the live chat, and we're going to probably stick to fermenting questions tonight, put your questions in all capital letters so that they're easier for us to see as they fly by or cruise by in the live chat. A lot of folks are just coming in. I just want to say welcome. This is a fermenting question and answer session. We'll do our very best to answer as many of your questions as we can. We've got a bunch of people coming in the door. It's always fun starting these off because you start with nobody and then everyone just starts showing up. So my name is Art from the Art and Bree channel, and this is my sister Anna.
Hey everybody.
And people are saying, who's that? And this is my younger sister, and we've been working, well, I've been working part-time, and she's been working basically full-time building a fermenting course for the past 2 months, really.
Mm-hmm.
And
a little more maybe.
Tonight is kind of the culmination of it for us. So we're celebrating because we've had this really successful launch, and the enrollment on the course ends at midnight. But it's done really well. A ton of people have come on board. And we're super excited.
Yeah, it's totally awesome. It's really fun to be jumping on with all of you and knowing that some of you are already in the course and will be hanging out with us. So great.
So we'll jump right into some questions. Morris Patch, Heaven Homestead, nice name, asked, where would you recommend putting fermented foods after fermentation? The short answer here is we recommend putting them in the fridge. Now, you don't have to put them in the fridge, but in the fermentation process, it is a process and it will progress. So putting them in the fridge is going to seal a stage of that process that you like the most, and it's going to preserve the nature of the food. Now, you can leave it out of the fridge, and fermentation is a preservation technique. It's not a survival bunker preservation technique. Mm-hmm. It's not a 10-year food. Mm-hmm. It's basically a 1-year food, traditionally. So if you make a giant batch of sauerkraut every year, most likely it will keep through the winter, and you can have your fresh sauerkraut or your fresh fermented foods, vitamin C in there, and it will last. In ideal conditions, in a cool space, it'll last till you pick cabbage again.
Yeah. And another question I saw, I'm sorry, the name is gone, who asked it, but someone was asking how do we store fermented foods that's not in the refrigerator, and kind of what's the point if they're not able to keep, then why ferment? And that's an awesome question. And like Arthur was saying, you can keep them out of the fridge, but even if you ferment and then put your ferments in the fridge, there are so many other benefits to making fermented foods that you miss out on if you just freeze, or I guess canning is like a great way to preserve food where it is, completely shelf stable, long term. Dehydrating might be another one. But with fermenting, there's all kinds of health benefits. kind of enriching of nutrients that you get, suppressing or removal of harmful substances. Sometimes even pesticide content can be reduced by fermenting in with non-organic vegetables. And then you also get these flavors that are just impossible to get with other preservation methods.
Cynthia asked a question. I'll keep this short. And she asked when she get her login information for the course. If you sign up for our course and you haven't gotten your login information, it's most likely in your email. So you have to go to your email, look in your junk, look in your spam, look in your promotions. There will be an email in there that will have your login information. If you didn't get it, just email us at artandbreevlog@gmail.com and we'll resend it to you.
That's awesome. Sheila actually is asking who is our mentor in fermenting, and I'm trying to think real hard, but I didn't really have one. I think I went on YouTube and I watched a bunch of videos, and I kind of was like, let me try it. I'm just gonna try, and so kind of self-mentored for the most part.
Someone just asked a question. How gnats are getting in their ferments. How do they keep them out? They're using a fabric covering, I believe. My thought in that case is recommending something that's a little more sealed. When you're putting a lid on an active ferment, you can really use any lid that's going to keep dirt out and then it's going to allow gases to escape. So you could try switching from fabric to something along the lines of wax paper or parchment paper and put a rubber band pretty tightly on it. As long as gases can get out, you'll be fine. And if you have a really persistent problem with gnats, you could actually put a lid on the jar and just burp it. And that might be worth it if you're getting fruit flies and gnats.
Yeah. I don't know how finely woven your fabric is as well. I've had really good luck using fabric as a cover, but it's always like thick, like a thick dish towel or really finely woven, like basically like an old sheet cut up, something like that.
I think it was Mrs. Merck asked a question about jars.
I can answer a question.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah.
I'll check. I'm getting a message.
So somebody way up the feed asked this amazing question I love, which is, does the microbiome of your fermenting environment matter? And just for those of you who aren't familiar with that term, microbiome refers to it usually refers to usually it's used in reference to a human gut population of microbes, and the microbiome is specifically their DNA. But so they're asking about does it matter like what microbes are present in my home? And for something like fermentation, where you're fermenting in a vessel, it doesn't really, for the most part. As far as I've experienced and read, it doesn't matter. The microbiome that you're going to cultivate is basically determined by what's on your vegetables.
Do you mind asking a question about using alternate jars? They're saying it's hard to get. North Star Prepper, I'm going to make you a moderator.
Thank you.
We had an technical issue with one of our other moderators. TC Games 65. Thank you so much. That's crazy. Thank you so much. That's amazing.
Somebody said they're tuning in from Arabia.
Yeah.
I think they asked about putting a translation up. Is that about this video?
No, that's about our channel in general, that's hard to do. If you want to put in Arabic translations on our channel, you can email me, and I'm interested in you doing it. That's a huge job, though.
Yeah, I just want to make sure if someone was watching and if we could do something so you could understand.
No, there's no way to auto-translate that. As far as jars go, someone asked a question about jars. So it's hard to find wide mouth core jars, and it really is. Bree and I have actually been hoarding them a little bit. we've been buying them wherever we get them. Now we're using them. It's not like we just have stacks of them, but we have bought a lot of them. And the short answer on jars is yes. If you're having a hard time getting jars, you can use any glass jar. And there's a wide variety of containers you can use. We can get into that more, but the short answer on glass jars is if you want to start fermenting now, you can use, a great example would be empty pasta sauce jar.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little harder to work with that small mouth, but you can do it. And so that's no problem. If you have a bunch of jars in your recycling, you can just use those.
Yeah. The only note on using canning or non-fermenting jars is to don't seal them all the way. Don't use a really tight seal jar method, so you don't have explosion issues as the pressure builds up.
Colleen asked, are there any vegetables you want to avoid fermenting? So, to my knowledge, there's not vegetables that are unsafe to ferment.
Mm-hmm.
There are vegetables that would be probably gross if you fermented them, or gross to most taste.
Yeah.
An example of that would be the lettuce.
Mm.
Well, I think you probably could ferment lettuce, or you could add lettuce to your sauerkraut. It is going to get very mushy very fast in those conditions. And that's personally something I've never had any desire to ferment. Guys, a little recap if you just joined us. This is a Q&A to answer fermenting questions. And we're going to answer them and discuss them to the best of our ability. We're going to be on until 10 o'clock Eastern Standard Time for an hour total. Tonight is actually the last night to sign up for our fermenting course. And we're celebrating this because the launch has gone really well. A bunch of people have signed up. So we wanted to get on and kind of have a little celebration this evening and share that with you and talk about fermenting.
Yeah. Is anybody on the live right now who's joining us in the course? It'd be fun to see.
I've seen a couple names.
Yeah. I saw a couple. So the other thing about what vegetables would you not ferment? I wouldn't necessarily avoid fermenting them, but there's some that I wouldn't do as my first few fermenting projects. And those are ones that can kind of be trickier to get right. And they're often the higher water content vegetables, things like squash. Well, squash isn't that high water content. It's just a little tricky. It can get mushy. Cucumbers, tomatoes, asparagus can be a little tricky.
So a bunch of people just flew by and said, yeah, we're
oh.
Guys, this is just a technical note.
Here.
If you haven't gotten sign-in information, if you're signed up for the course, go search in your email, because sometimes that will drop into spam or promotions. If you need that sign-up or you need your sign-in information again, just email us at artandbrieblog@gmail.com and we'll resend that to you. So we want to make sure everyone gets on board as early as possible. And the course material will actually be up tomorrow, probably in the morning. Francis asked, have we ever used crocks to ferment? Yes. Actually, no, I haven't. But I have fermented in giant glass vessels, which is very similar.
Like this.
Yeah, very similar to a
I
crock.
have two.
And I actually have two crocks, which I recently acquired. One was given to me, and one of them I purchased. And I think we're going to actually do that on a similar. It'll be a smaller scale than like the big glass jars I've done, but we're going to do that as part of the course material later on in the course.
Yeah.
When we talk about larger ferments and when we talk about storage. Can you describe the taste of a fermented pickle as opposed to what most of us know? Do you want to answer that?
Yeah. Fermented. Okay, so here's the thing. It depends on, what most of us know might actually be fermented pickles. There's a lot of commercial pickles that are fermented on a massive scale, and they have this stuff like really down to a science. And those would most often be the pickles that you find in like the deli section, and they're refrigerated. It doesn't mean those are all fermented, but a lot of them are. So you may have tasted a fermented pickle. And then the other note is if you haven't, it's gonna have just a little bit of a funky taste. Just very slightly, just more like dynamic flavor than a regular pickle.
Guys, if you're interested in getting in on the course, tonight's the last night to sign up, and you can click on, there's a link in the description of this video you'll be able to see, and I'll actually paste a link in a comment if you want to go check out that page. There's a link that I just posted. So someone asked, is our sauerkraut still in the stairs? The question is, or the answer to that, we made a big batch. Anna actually helped us. The question is it still on the stairs downstairs in our barn? Most of it is, and most of it meaning what we haven't eaten yet. So we've eaten a couple jars of it, and currently we're working on a jar that we put some sliced up chili peppers in and some oregano. I'm trying to think what else we put in it, and it's really, really good. It's kind of a spicy.
Spices, yeah.
It's a spicy sauerkraut version. It's not a traditional kimchi, but it's the closest thing I've ever made to kimchi. It looks like Bree is on now as our moderator.
Yay.
She was had a little hard time getting on.
So
go ahead.
Oh yeah, just want to keep getting questions. A couple people have asked about salt, and that's a great question. A big picture is you can ferment with almost any salt. To get a little more specific, salts with anti-caking agents or iodine may hamper the fermenting process and result in a not as good product. You can still use those salts and have success. So that would answer, just to be really specific, somebody asked about sea salt versus pink Himalayan salt. It's basically all the same once you get down to that quality.
Yeah. And there can be some measurement concerns between the most fine and the most coarse.
Mm-hmm.
But fermenting is really flexible and forgiving enough that you can pretty much use any salt and match any recommendation we make in the course. I'm actually going to jump over to email and answer a couple questions there because I was forgetting about those questions.
Yeah, totally.
We've had people email us a few questions, so I just want to jump in and get a few of those. Here it is.
Okay, real quick, one more note on salt. Somebody asked about hickory smoked salt. The answer is yes. It's awesome to ferment with.
Didn't we just do that the other day?
Yeah, we made some fermented hot peppers with smoked sea salt. So good.
You know, folks who emailed us questions, I may not be able to get into my email because it's asking me to verify myself. I did some switch ups with my accounts earlier. So I think we're just going to answer the ones we can remember. And the first one is fermenting garlic. Do you want to address that? Do you mind if I address it?
Go for it, yeah.
So yes, you can ferment garlic. There's a lot of methods to it, but probably the simplest way is doing whole peeled cloves in a brine. And so it would be as simple as peeling all your cloves, putting them in a jar, pouring a brine over them, making sure they're weighted down. You might, with a food like garlic, add a little bit of primer from another ferment you've done. It's not necessary, but it can help actually almost any ferment along the way. That's the basic kind of short version. And then I've actually never done whole garlic cloves. I've seen recommendations though for like 3 or 4 weeks before you would start eating them or put them in the refrigerator. So there's a little bit.
Yeah. So I got when I first started fermenting, I read about garlic, and people were like, "You can get botulism from eating fermented garlic." And when I read a little bit more, I found that it's actually not. People don't get botulism from fermented garlic. There have been some cases where people got infected with botulism from like olive oil aged garlic, where you just take cloves of garlic, put it in olive oil, and the reason for that is in that mix there's basically no acidity, and when you ferment, your contents of your vessel get super acidic, and that makes it so that botulism is not an issue. Anyway, just thought I'd address that too.
Lisa asked, as a nurse, what are the problems with someone with high blood pressure eating fermented foods? And the the fairly obvious that are right in front of us is just the sodium. And we don't cover low sodium fermenting in this course. We touch on it, but we don't really get into it a lot.
Mm-hmm.
There are people practicing low sodium fermenting out there, so don't think that you shouldn't explore it. According to, say, the USDA, doing the most low sodium ferments adds some risk that your batches will go bad. It doesn't necessarily add risk. There's some safety steps you might want to take. If you're going to do low sodium ferments, I might recommend pH testing to make sure it actually does what it's supposed to do.
Mm-hmm.
When you stay within a normal fermenting window, it's almost guaranteed that it will get down acidic enough that it will kill all the bad bacteria. I just want to answer another question, but first I want to say thank you to everyone for coming in. Thank you to North Star Prepstetter for jumping in as a moderator. I really appreciate that a lot. And thanks to Bree, who is at home as a moderator. Thanks to TC Game 65. Big thanks for the super chat. That's amazing and unexpected. And tonight is a celebration for us because we've been working, Anna more than me, but we've been working for 2 months on building this fermenting course. I've been doing it. I kicked it off because ad revenue is just all over the place, and that's right now what we depend on for a lot of our income. So I said, hey, we have to add something that is not ad revenue for some diversity, essentially for like security with my family's income. And so it's been a success. A ton of people have signed up, and we're really, really excited. So we're celebrating tonight by talking about fermenting and answering your questions.
Brittany just jumped in the course. That's so exciting. Can't wait to see you in there. Someone had a question, can I use well water when fermenting? And well water is great.
Have we covered water at all tonight, or is that the first time we've mentioned it? Or, I guess we can keep answering questions.
Yeah, there's a bunch of questions. Trying to get them all. Someone else had, I'm sorry, your name has gone on. I didn't catch it, but asked a question about the batch size that we're doing, that we're kind of teaching in the course. And what we're teaching in the course is via small batch sizes. And that's because this is geared towards people who are just getting into fermenting. And if you haven't done it before, I think it just seems we decided that small batches would be the best place to begin. That's how I know I started out. And once you've got the principles, it will be really easy to scale up from there.
All right, I've got a question from email. This is from Deb, and she says, my biggest concern is where to store all these except the refrigerator after the initial ferment, and what's the warmest temperature that will keep the ferment safe. So Anna just kind of covered batch size, and that actually plays into this. So we focus on the smaller ferments for this course. So, and we do have, there's 11 recipes, quote unquote recipes. Some of them really are recipes. Some of them are guidelines for versions of different fermented foods you can make. So if you made every single one, do you remember exactly how many jars it would be? Basically be 20. 16, okay, 16 quart jars in your fridge, and that's a lot. Our suggestion is you do one fermenting project at least per week, and most likely you're going to eat a lot of that before you make more projects. It's a challenge. Fridge space is a challenge, but most of these ferments you can leave out for several weeks on your counter as you eat them. And another approach would be rotating, where you just make a batch of something you really love every 2 weeks. And then you just have 2 or 3 jars in the fridge, and you're just eating from the oldest one all the time. So it doesn't, it's massive food storage is one thing. If you want to add fermented foods to your diet regularly, you can just rotate them through your fridge. Let's see. Here's a good question. Tammy said, can I still eat sauerkraut if white mold has formed on the top? Do you want to answer that question?
Can I still eat the ferment if white mold is formed on the top?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's kind of a nuanced answer. I personally have removed mold from the top of my ferments and eaten them, and you totally can do this. You definitely want to remove any vegetable matter that the mold is growing on. So if it's on, like, if say your sauerkrauts become exposed and it's getting moldy, you want to take that off and some more, and then make sure it gets covered with the brine again before you continue. If I had a ferment that was completely covered with mold, which means it would be more established, in that case there is a chance that it's grown down into the ferment, and I might consider tossing it. And then I guess you asked about white mold. Colored mold would be more likely to toss it, be more choosy.
I've removed mold many times, but white mold from the top of ferments.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I have another question from email. This is from Ms. Smirk, who is actually in the live chat right now, and we already answered one of her questions. And she asked, are we going to remain active in the Facebook group beyond the 3 weeks? So we have the fermenting course. One of the big things, though, that we wanted to do is, with this course, is actually provide a level of support for people, because the feedback I've gotten on our channel has been many people are reticent to start fermenting and they feel intimidated by it. So we said, like, how can we design a course with the goal of actually getting people fermenting? So the answer to that question is yes. We're actually going to be active in a Facebook group throughout the course, which will run in parallel to the course material, so we can answer questions and interact and help you all as you go through learning fermenting. But we're actually announcing tonight, I don't know if we've said this before, we're actually going to be in for 3 weeks after the course ends to catch any issues that you have as you're going out from the course into your fermenting journey. So we'll be in that group and answering questions.
Yeah. So someone brought up, what is this thing that you're talking about with the beta launch? I think we've mentioned that here or there this week. And the deal with the beta launch is that we just created this course. It's brand new. And so you all as the students are going to be our first students going through it. And basically, just to ensure that you have the best experience possible, we're going to be very available for support in a Facebook group and via some live Q&As and other things, so that you can have, so that we make sure that there's nothing left out of your learning experience.
Joyce asked, can you ferment frozen veggies? And the answer is, I have no idea. It's not a common thing to do.
Yeah, that would be a cool experiment. I would treat it as an experiment and maybe do a small batch. I know that it is possible and quite common in some fermenting traditions to blanch veggies and then ferment them, which is kind of crazy because you think you're killing off the bacteria. But I've heard of people making dilly beans where they blanch the dilly beans, the green beans, but then they do add raw garlic. So the garlic could be bringing more of the bacteria that we want to use in our fermentation.
Lucy asked, is fermentation like pickling? And this is an awesome question, one of my favorites so far, because it gets to the heart of what fermentation is. So fermentation and pickling, depending on how you define pickling, but fermentation and pickling are actually opposites in many ways. They have similarities, though, and the main similarity is preservation with acid. With pickling, you usually, depending on how you do it, I'm referring to pickling and canning, you actually sterilize the contents of your jar with boiling water or with a pressure canner, and you add acid, usually in the form of vinegar, to it. And it's sealed, it's nearly sterile, and it will last for a long time. On the other hand, with fermenting, this is crazy, and this is why I love it, and it blows my mind the more I think about it. You actually put vegetables, raw vegetables, into water with salt, and the bacteria that are already on your vegetables proliferate, and there's a bunch of families of them, but it ends up these lactic acid producing bacteria, which will dominate. They produce acid and they preserve your food. The main difference, though, is one tends to be close to sterile, and the other one is actually teeming with life, and incredibly, it's safe because that lactic acid is a natural killer of pathogens, and it's incredibly effective. And it's not only incredibly effective; it's actually its effectiveness is actually admired by microbiologists.
Yeah, totally. Let's see. I saw a question here with the answer. Oh, yes. Okay, can your ferment sit near kombucha? And yeah, totally. That's fine. It shouldn't. I've never had cultures like jump from one jar to another.
Someone a few minutes ago, I don't remember the name, asked a question, and it was, how long does this process, how long does fermenting take start to finish? And this is one I really want to answer. The process of putting together a batch of fermented food can take as little as 6 minutes. I made sauerkraut the other day. Actually, is that jar right there?
Yeah.
I made with this one, right?
It's sitting here.
Is this it?
It's the littler jar, the smaller jar with the paper towels.
I made this jar of sauerkraut a couple nights ago in a live stream that was a private live stream, and I made this in 6 minutes. Now the question as to how long will we wait before we try it and eat it, it's really up to you. And you can try it on day 3, on day 5. It's going to not really have a mature sauerkraut flavor for several weeks. So if you want that, think that you're going to make it and eat it in a month or 6 weeks or so. Guys, if you just joined us, we're doing a fermenting Q&A. We have about 20 minutes left. We're going to go to 10 o'clock. And we're doing this as a celebration because Ann and I are really happy. We have been working really hard. Ann's been working harder. And we are launching our Fermenting Foundations course starting Monday. And tonight is the last night you can sign up. A bunch of people have signed up. So we're actually doing a celebration because this has just gone so well. Greta's World, thank you so much. That is awesome. Just the super chat. Thank you so much. That's super generous.
So I got a question here from Rebecca. I'm sorry, I missed this. I saw this question earlier and it went away. Asking about if you have to use glass vessels. And the answer is no, you don't. There's a lot of different materials you can use, from ceramic to glass. You can actually ferment in a glass or ceramic bowl with a plate on top to kind of close it off, and then a fabric cover. You can use plastic. That was specifically what she was asking about here. So plastic works. Definitely use food grade plastic. And if you're fermenting for somebody who's pregnant or is an infant, don't use plastic. That would be the main advice on that.
Just want to say thank you so much to Nana's Happy. Super chat is always funny. I'm always like, what? Because we had it turned off for so long on our channel, but it's always a surprise and just amazing. Thank you guys so much. And thanks again to Bree, who's doing moderating in the background, and thank you so much to North Star Prepstetter for jumping in as a moderator because we had some technical issues.
Yeah.
I want to actually taste a few fermented foods right now.
Grab some.
I'm going to grab something that we'll taste.
While he's grabbing that, I had another question I jotted down from up in the front, and that's, do all ferments smell as strong as kimchi? I'm guessing you've had a house full of kimchi smell or a room full of kimchi smell. And no, they don't. The smelliest ferments I have done are hot sauce, like fermented chili pepper mash, and kimchi, actually. So all the other things I've done. Oh, and I had a roommate once who had always made sauerkraut with a bunch of garlic in it. And that was really smelly. But anything else I fermented has been pretty mild in the smell.
Have you tried these beets yet?
Yes. Yeah, they're great. Best water. Yeah, let's talk about that. It's possible to use just tap water and ferment. If you want to really set yourself up the most for success, try to get something without chlorine in it. So you can go and like borrow, buy, or go out and harvest spring water, well water, reverse osmosis water, Berkey filtered water, or if it's just chlorine at your house, you can boil your water for a short time or set it out in an open container for a day or two. And if it's the regular chlorine your water system uses to purify your water, it should evaporate. And you'll just know by how it smells, or you can test it if you like. Get test strips from like a pool store or a pet supply store if you want to make sure you have gotten all the chlorine.
I'm actually going to try it. I'm going to bring a sauerkraut in and try it.
Can you eat too much and upset your tummy? Yes, especially when you've not had a lot of like fermented live culture foods, or even like if you eat a lot of yogurt but you haven't had a lot of fermented vegetables, it's going to be different strains of bacteria that are most present. So you do need to start low and start with small amounts, and you can build up and usually have no problem.
Guys, I just want to say welcome to anyone who's just come in. We've got 617 people in here. I want to do something really fun here. I like to do in live videos, and just ask everyone who's in who's in here to post where they are right now, either your state if you're in the United States, or your country if you're international, because this is super fun for me to do.
Yay.
Because I just like seeing it. It's amazing. And I want to watch that for a second. Nevada, Texas, Washington, Oregon, Philadelphia, Michigan, Australia, Missouri.
Oh, that's so fast.
A
Northern
ton
Virginia,
of people. Ontario,
Garland, Texas,
Nova Scotia,
Smyrna, Tennessee,
Florida,
Portland, Oregon, Pennsylvania, Utah, California, Texas, Missouri.
the great state of Tennessee.
Woo! So fun. Wow. It's so fun. Like, we are all from all around the world. I love it.
This is why I like live videos, because it's still coming.
Kansas.
It's amazing.
Kansas.
California.
Kansas is one of my favorite states to drive through when driving from North Carolina to the Rockies. And when I tell people that, they're like, "You're crazy." It's beautiful.
All right, guys. Thank you for indulging me in that. It's super, super fun for me to see that.
Ohio, Philippines. Wow, cool. Love it.
Awesome, guys.
UK.
Thanks so much. We're going to jump in. We missed a ton. We're going to jump in and try some of these. And I'm going to start with this one right here that I'm super excited about. I'm breaking it out. Have you tried this yet? Okay. This is a fermented chili sauce. And it's a unique ferment because it's a really thick ferment. And I'm going to try it. I haven't tried it yet. Are all fermented foods sour? Whoa, I got too much.
Yeah, this is really hot.
It is super good. This is made with habanero peppers. Oh my, I made a mistake, people.
We even cut the habanero peppers like half and half with more mild peppers, but it's, they're habanero peppers.
Susan asked a question, what are the benefits of fermenting versus canning? Canning, you're going to get longer storage, period. The potential for longer storage, if that's what you're interested in. If you're interested in meeting your health goals, of adding more living food to your diet, adding microbes that may benefit your gut, then fermenting wins all the way. There's a lot to discuss about the health benefits or potential health benefits of fermented foods. but it really depends on what your priorities are and what you're interested in. Hey guys, if you want to join our Fermenting Foundations course, you got to sign up tonight before midnight. And this is our beta launch, and we're providing a huge amount of support, mostly on Facebook. We're going to answer your questions. We'd love to see your photos. And we're going to be there if you need help along the way to answer any questions and just deal with problems as they arise.
So someone's been asking, are all fermented foods sour? And it's kind of yes and no. Yes, there is going to be a sour component to your fermented foods. If there's not, then they haven't fermented, because the bacteria produce acids, and that's kind of it's integral to fermenting. But the other side of it, the no side, is that if you start with a really sweet or a really sweet like raw product, or something that has another really strong flavor, like really hot peppers, like yes, it's sour, but it's like the spicy and the heat comes more in front.
Sauerkraut's amazing.
Oh, I'm excited to try it. Even if you do like fruit, I've done like a pear apple chutney before, fermented. It's a real short ferment, but it's like sweet and tangy. Like if you made a chutney with vinegar, a little bit of vinegar in it.
Someone asked, so they just signed up for the course. Thank you so much. We're excited to be doing this with you. And they asked, how do I sign up for the Facebook group? We'll put a link in the course. It'll be up tomorrow. You can basically go and request to join the Facebook group, and then it'll let you into the Facebook group. It'll be laid out.
It's in the welcome tab. It's like you go to the welcome, there's a video and the link to join the Facebook group.
And this Facebook group is just for people who are in the course. So it's a smaller group, so we can, it's not for everybody. It's a closed Facebook group. Mm-hmm. Someone says, Art got rosy cheeks. It's not a question. That's a fact.
That's funny.
I'm trying to remember. There's a question. Oh, is it crunchy or soft? Let's talk about it. Oh. It's crunchy.
It's definitely
crunchy. It's very crunchy. This is a young batch. We actually made this for our instructional video, and the label's on the lid. But it was about 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, actually.
And it's super crunchy, but it's very, very tangy and very acidic. So I'm really happy with how, like, you can just taste that it has progressed dramatically from cabbage and salt to a very sour food. Oh, try the carrots. Thank you.
Yeah, so someone's asking if you can. There's a lot of questions about can you can your finished product, and people definitely ferment and then can the product. And the other question is, do you lose all the benefits? And you likely do. I'm excited to try this too. You likely do lose some of the benefits, as specifically, you're not going to have all the live beneficial bacteria in your food if you can it. However, you might get some of the other benefits, like when you make fermented foods, the bacteria kind of pre-digest the food, and they eat up sugars and carbs, and then the byproduct is the acid, amongst other things, and that can make it more digestible for us, because they're basically doing what the microbes in your intestines do when you eat food, raw food.
Herbert, I just want to say thank you so much for the super
Herbert.
chat.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, and I love that little. What is that? A gift? Looks like a flying squash. Someone asked if I'm gonna sell the course again. There we go, Crystal. Sorry, you asked a couple times. So we just put, and especially, I can't even tell you the number of hours. It was multiple full weeks of work on the course, spread out over 2 months, building video content, building documents. So the answer is yes, we will in the future. The thing is, though, with this launch, our goal was to, because it's our first time running an online course at all, it's our first time on this platform that we're using as well, which we really like so far. But we're getting to know it. We wanted to actually do a little trade, which is you come into our first course, it's going to be extremely informational, but if we have little technical issues, we're working them out on you. We will work them out. but in trade, we're going to give this extremely high level of support. Also, we wanted to catch all the questions and all the things that we didn't think of as more experienced fermenters that a beginner needs to know. So I think we've laid out really good content, but we're going to learn from this as well.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to answer everyone's questions, and we'll even make extra videos if we need to.
Totally.
Answering people's questions if we say, oh, we really missed that.
Yeah, I've actually already gone into the course and added some links to specific products that people might want to go and get to help out with their experience, because people are like, which thing do I know?
Basically, though, in the future, as we sell the content, it won't be the same level of support, because it's not scalable at all. And we hope that we can actually capture some of this, the extra things we add on to the course from folks' feedback, and put it into that in the future, but it won't be the same as this. This is really kind of the one shot to get in with this level of interaction with us.
Mm-hmm. The carrots are really good.
They're super, super good.
They're yummy.
North Star Prep Stutter says, what time does the program come out in the morning? We actually haven't even talked about it. I think it'll probably go up at like 7 or something.
I think it's set to go sooner,
it'll be up in the
sooner than
morning.
that. Earlier than that. Yeah. How do you know it's ferment bad? Our Simple Life project. There's a bunch of different ways. You're gonna usually you're basically gonna see stuff on top of your ferment, and if it actually really goes bad, you're probably gonna smell a smell that is clear to you that it's gone bad. Not every visual, say like a growth on the surface, means it's actually gone bad. Some of them are totally fine, and yeah, I don't know if we can go all the way into all of that info.
Someone asked about fermenting fruits. I don't know a lot about fermenting fruits. I've actually never fermented fruits. I've pickled them, but we're not covering that in the course. So I don't have a lot to share on fermenting fruits. That might be the next thing I get into personally, though. And it's something I've been thinking about, actually. Do you think you can ferment grapes? Because I've pickled grapes before.
Well, I
love them.
I don't think fermented grapes would be a very good idea. I don't think that's anything anybody ever thought of.
Oh, really?
Like wine.
Oh.
It's a different. Wine is a different type of fermentation than what we're covering in the course. It features different microbes, but.
Tanner asked, "What's the best method to keep your fermented foods under the brine?" And this is a great question, and I'm actually would want to pair it with a question about specific fermenting lids. I'm going to pair them to the two questions, because my view on it is that when you're starting out, you don't buy specific weights for fermenting, and you don't buy specific lids. If you want to, it's fine. You can go for it, but there's no reason to. In fact, I fermented, I think for a couple years before I had any weights or any lids. And Pickle Top, I think, sent me some lids, and I like them, but I don't really use them, because the simpler methods that are dirt sheet, which is a coffee filter or a piece of fabric, and then in the weights department, just a little tiny jelly jar with water in it, or you can even use rocks. Boil some rocks, and you can use them for weights. If you're doing massive batches, you can use all kinds of things. You can use plates with weights on them, or you can use plastic bags full of water. There's a lot of options out there that are very affordable.
Mm-hmm. So Colleen asked, are you going to do more rounds? We kind of covered that. Yes, we will in the future. Potentially another one really soon. And then some more further out. And then do I have to start at the beginning, or do I get access to the whole course all at once? And so we do have it spaced out over 3 weeks, because we put the content together in a specific order that was going to help you kind of progress in your knowledge. So that is the case, but you also will have access to the material, indefinitely. You're going to get sign in to the area where all the videos and content is, and then it's yours. So once it unlocks, you do have access to all of it.
Another question I wanted to address is not in the chat here, is just what equipment do I need to get started? We kind of addressed that with jars, but you can both start fermenting and the course incidentally. You can start with a cutting board, a knife, and some glass jars.
Mm-hmm.
You need a coffee filter to cover your jars, or fabric.
Or some parchment paper and the lids that, if you bought jars, the lids the jars came with.
There are some other things that you could get for the course. If you want to get a scale, you can. If you want to learn weight-based, salt proportions, you can, but you don't have to have that for any of the recipes. And if you have a food processor, that would also really help.
Yeah.
Guys, we're going to shut this show down really soon.
Oh my God.
Time flies.
It feels like we're just getting started. Wow. I love, this is so fun.
So guys, we are just having a fermenting celebration. We wanted to get on and not just talk about our course. We wanted to mostly talk about fermenting and answer questions. And I want to say thank you to everyone who showed up and asked questions. Sorry to the people we didn't ask them. We didn't answer their questions because a lot flew by. Sorry if you asked over and over and we weren't watching close enough. But thank you all for coming. This has been super fun. And we're celebrating tonight because tonight is the last night that folks can sign up for our Fermenting Foundations course. And it's been a really successful launch, and a bunch of people have joined in. And we're going to basically take all the folks in the course and walk through a 3-week process where we show these really simple methods for fermenting delicious vegetables at home. And we're going to walk you through 3 weeks. We're going to answer all your questions in that process. If you want to sign up, there's a link in the live chat a lot. There's a link in this video description just right below this video, so you can go check that out. And we're super excited about this. So thank you to everyone who's gotten in on it and made this a successful launch. I'm
looking, Sherry and Gail are just saying they got in. Thank you for showing up to this live and hanging out with us. It's so fun. And everybody that was already in the course, we're so excited to hang out with you, and people who signed up tonight, that's even more fun. So yeah, we can't wait.
If anyone's in the course and you have issues, email us at artandbrievlog@gmail.com.
Yeah.
North Star Prep Center, you're a star.
Thank you.
A superstar. I don't know if I have your email address. Email me. At artandbrievlog@gmail.com. That would be awesome. And I think that's it.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for coming. It's 10:01 p.m. If you want to get in the course, do it before midnight. And whether or not you do, happy fermenting. And we'll see you later. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
See you later. Oh, we're still on. Bye.